Hi, everybody. This is a check one, check two. Let me know if you can hear me. Someone can just give me a holler that we've got sound. That would be great. Awesome. Thanks, Trina. Okay. Well, it looks like I'm Janelle, but I'm not Janelle. I'm Amanda, but Janelle is here. We're trying to get her in so she can monitor questions, but be patient with us. You can use the chat box or the question box to send chats or issues with sound, anything like that. Just let us know right away. Matt has a sick kid, so he literally had to leave like a couple of minutes ago. So I hope you guys will bear with us as we move through the material, because he was going to be our primary presenter today. So anything that we have questions about or can't cover in enough detail for you, we can always follow up with you after the webinar. So this is an overview of the 2017 data standards. So we are officially in a new version of the data standards. They are available online if you are having trouble sleeping before bedtime and want to read them in detail. You can get them through the HUD Exchange. So there's two pieces, right? Data dictionary and data manual. The manual is usually the piece that's more helpful to non-sysadmin folks, but they're available to both of you. So let me see. Ooh, do I know how to advance my slide? Let's see. That makes me sad. Oh, okay, great. All right, sorry, we have a new laptop in here. So just some logistics. You guys are muted. So again, put questions through questions or chat. Either is fine. I did remember to press record. So barring any major malfunction, we will have a recording of this that we'll put up on HelpSpot. The address is there below. You guys should all know it. So I already started telling you guys some of the stuff about the data dictionary and data manual. We will be having a follow-up webinar on October 2nd at 10 a.m. So that's a couple Mondays away, and hopefully most of you have signed up already. If you haven't, you should have received an email from the listserv, and it also should have been posted in System News. So if you don't see it there, let us know and we can add it, the link. And that is where we're actually going to be doing the demo, right? So we'll actually be on the demo site showing you how some of the changes are going to look, and answering any more practical questions at this time. So I got a little question. What's up, Janelle?
I wasn't able to get in, and so I'm not going to be able to man questions, but I can help you with. I'll come look over your shoulder.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's no problem at all. So just be patient with us on questions. Okay, great. All right. I'm having trouble making them. I was trying to stretch that so we could see them better. There we go. There we go.
You go.
Sorry, guys. We were just trying to stretch it so that Janelle can see the questions while I'm huddled over the display. I may have to grab this back to advance my slides, but you can definitely look. And like we said, anything we don't answer during the webinar itself, we'll follow up afterwards. Oh, and it kind of goes without saying, but when we if you get into the demo site now, we haven't set everything up, but the demo site is updated. So if you're the kind of person who likes to get in and look and play and update your forms and that kind of stuff, you may most certainly do that. Just know that right now it isn't as, click on it maybe, clean as it's going to be when we have a chance to do our assessments and get everything ordered. Janelle has also updated our beautiful sample intake forms. I was just reviewing them today. They are lovely. So for those of you who have used our ones previously, there you go. you can update them, and they're updated for the new changes. So as you know, right now we only have specific forms for HUD and SSVF. Sorry about that. It just takes time, but you can use those for your UDEs, and they can be modified for PATH and RY and HOPWA, which probably would need, yeah. And someday, if Janelle has a lot of free time, she may be able to add assessments forms for those other assessment types. But we just had to go based on her time and how many people, how many projects use the particular assessment. So just like an overview of the changes. So now we have a project start date as well as an entry date instead of an entry date. So we're going to talk more about what that means. It's really just a language change, but we just have to kind of be able to adjust to that and understand what we need to enter for it. So there's some details there, a few pick list updates for your options in a few areas. A slight change to data collection stage, additional time of data collection for RY, slight update to the youth-only households, and getting rid of the language unaccompanied youth since it's confusing. So just a review of the data collection stages, says this helps us think about our workflow, right? So you have record creation. Project start is replacing project entry. So for PSH projects who do work with clients before they sleep in a unit, you will now have a start date. Updates, or as we call them, interims, changes that happen between start and exit. Annual assessment is a specific type of update. And remember, those have to be within 30 days before or after the anniversary of the entry date. And the head of household's anniversary date is the date for the whole household. So even if people have come and gone, you always want to be doing that from the head of household's anniversary date. And we still have our project exit. Our RY projects will now have to do a post exit. Which is basically the aftercare and follow-up question for RY will actually be collected after exit, as opposed to being more theoretical. It'll be more like, what did you actually do in terms of aftercare and follow-up? So I was just having a frantic phone call with Matt to make sure I understand the youth-related rule as far as households, because it's so confusing. But basically, what we had formerly called unaccompanied youth, minors under 18, are always entered individually, except if one of them is a child of the minor. So if siblings show up, they're each entered independently. They're not entered as a family. But if a minor shows up who has a baby, the minor and that baby would be entered as a family. So I'm not 100% happy with that, because I know that if siblings present together, then they're a family. I think the idea is to try to get at the number of what we've been calling unaccompanied youth, of homeless minors more broadly. But you guys also know that having the babies in a record by themselves was just, those of you who've been doing it, is just super confusing. So they've gone back and forth about it a couple times. The latest word is that we are able to put the babies with their parent if they're both under 18. Okay, so some updates to gender. The transgender options: trans female, male MTF or male to female, trans male, FTM or female to male, and gender nonconforming, not exclusively male or female. There's lots of gender identity access materials available from HUD and from the CoC at CoHio, but you are marking down what how your client identifies. You don't have to ask follow-up. You don't need documentation of anything. It's just how do you identify your gender, and whatever the client says, you put down the end. So if you have any questions about that, let us know and we can address them directly with you. All right, project start. I'm really excited. Janelle's sitting by me right now so that she can catch me if I say anything that's confusing. But basically we're just replacing project entry with project start. It's not really a functional change for any projects other than PSH, but we're going to review it for everybody. So for street outreach, for path street outreach, project start is the date of your first contact with that client. For emergency shelter, your project start is the night that the client first sleeps in a bed, either at your facility base or paid for by your agency's voucher program. For safe haven and transitional housing, your start date is also the day that your client sleeps in the facility or the voucher-based transitional housing project. All permanent housing, including rapid rehousing. So the RRH folks are kind of used to this, but basically your project start date is the day that you agree to offer services to the client and they agree to receive the services. And then following that will be a move-in date. That is the day the client goes to sleep in the unit. So we can talk about that a little bit more. There's also, Janelle added some really cool check boxes to the forms that can kind of help you conceptualize when that start date is, because I know for our rapid rehousing RRH projects, this has been confusing because even though we're in the process of developing program standards for balance of state, and the state has provided some guidance. Each program has its own kind of process, and so it can be confusing to know in the terms of your agency's particular workflow exactly when to you make that start date. So do we need to break for question?
I don't know the answer to
that. My guess, not being someone who works for the state, is that the I see, for PSH.
Mm-hmm. We can answer it later.
Yes, we will follow up. There was a question if your annual recert goes from project start or housing move-in. I think it is project start. So
we will check and follow up.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
That's a really important question. Any other questions? Yes, that another good question about overlap, and that's exactly yes. Right. So this is addressing the issue with your PSH needs to mark that bed as full. The client is still in shelter because the unit's not ready. So you're right. You will be able to overlap PSH and shelter.
Yeah, you can overlap PSH and shelter, but not your move-in date. Your move-in date on PSH can't overlap with the shelter stay, but your start date can.
Yes, and that kind of leads into another question. You will still put your move-in date in via an interim.
Right. Also, this all begins on October 1st. So, for now until, for the next 10 days or whatever, keep doing everything as you have been, which is for PSH, the entry date equals the day that they move in. So, but on October 1st, we're going to go forward this way, just to be clear.
Yeah, so just to review, project start will be the day that you offer service and the client consents to service. Beginning October 1, the start date can overlap with a shelter stay, but the housing move-in date cannot overlap with another residential project. And we believe that the anniversary date will be the start date, not the move-in date, but we are going to confirm that.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all the questions
Yeah,
that
so
we
far.
needed to get right now?
Yep.
Oh, you're fine. I just want to click this. I know. I wanted to do the directions. It's not letting me. Okay, so, oh, is that what it is? Thanks. I don't know why I'm whispering. I know you guys can hear me. So, changes to the destinations and drop down values. So, important, exciting. You will now have a other than RRH or with RRH option. So when the state asks you how many people have left your shelter to RRH, we will be able to tell you that without you looking at every single exit. So those will just be available in the new version starting next month. Clarification about relationship to head of household. I believe that we have been advising you all of this, but just to be consistent, if there is an adult in the household, the adult must always be marked head of household. So the only time this may have come up is if the child has a disability or something else that would give them eligibility, you would still mark the adult as the head of household, not the child. Sorry, excuse my reach. Okay, so housing move-in date. There's no more residential move-in date for those of you who have RRH projects. It's now housing move-in date. It's used for all permanent housing, including RRH. Oh, that's exciting. I'm learning stuff. So it looks like you only have to put it on the head of household now, which is rad, because as you know, you used to have to remember to do it on the whole family. And it will be done still via interim or update. And the move-in date is the night they go to sleep in the unit. So other things, start date, once they are going to sleep in the unit, that's your move-in date. No, see, I know, sorry. So living situation, so just like with destination, you have some designation between RRH or not RRH in your living situation options as well. So this is going to get us at some better information about how our RRH projects are working. If you don't have PATH, you probably haven't even been using housing status. Some of you may remember it from several years ago, but it is officially gone away. My intuition about that is because we're looking at street outreach or services only project type for PATH to tell us about people's housing situation and their living situation. Housing status is just redundant, so that will be getting retired from PATH. In addition, under non-cash, the Section 8 public housing or rental assistance and temporary rental assistance categories have been removed, which I also think is great because I think that we don't have that very often. Those are types of things that are covered in destination, and having those categories has just been confusing. So I'm not sorry to see those go. So some really exciting news also. So under disabling condition, they got rid of most of the questions inside. So you'll have yes or no. You will have expected to be long-term, and that's it. That's all you have to say. You don't have to put in documentation or treatment. The path-only questions have been removed. Of course, they decided to remove the path-only questions before changing how the path report is calculated. So we're still figuring out how that's going to look. So some of those may still be visible, and path providers will get specific instructions on if they need to change any of their data collection. We're still kind of working out the kinks before October 2nd in terms of how this is going to look. But basically, for each disabling condition, yes or no, and expected to be long-term, that's it. Everything else is going away. So super exciting.
If I could just add to that.
Please.
So the if expected to be long-term question is, even though that's the only one left and that's the only one you have to do, it's still really important.
Yes.
Because it helps us like without it, we can't determine if they're chronic. If they're and we're trying to end chronic homelessness, and then we can't calculate whether a client is chronic, then that's like a problem. So that one if yes question that's left after they got rid of the other ones is pretty important. So yeah.
Yes, I'm
Just
glad
reminding
you
about that.
clarified that. So contact, for those of you who use contacts, do we use that in unsheltered? Just PATH? Maybe.
Yes.
Oh, so in the unsheltered provider and in PATH, they made a change to the location field. So instead of saying, right now I think it says something like services setting non-residential, services setting residential, place not meant, something like that. But it's basically just going to say, are they on the street in ES or SH, yes or no? Because that's really what they want to know. And then we already talked about residential move-in date is now housing start date, all permanent housing projects.
Yeah. They're calling it retired and that there's a new one, but it's the same.
Yeah, trust me, we had a very confusing conversation about that in our office yesterday because I was like, what? No, they don't have to map. It's not new. And we're like, yeah. So anyway, it says retired. It's just moved. It's going to work the same for RRH. PSH is just using it now. Okay, so there's some pretty significant changes to the vet assessment. I'm sure all my SSVF providers are rolling their eyes right now because we always seem to have a lot of changes every year. The numbering thing, you guys don't have to worry about. That's just administrator stuff. But veterans projects will now be adding a connection with SOAR element. SOAR is a specific SSI connection project that is funded in different parts of the country, including our state. And so the VA wants to know if eligible vets are getting connected with that. PATH projects are already collecting information on this data element. So it's just a yes or no. So if you are familiar with the SOAR project and you know that your client's connected with it, you put yes. If you have no idea, you're putting no. We're going to have additional guidance about that. We're fortunate enough to have the head of SOAR Ohio working out of our office. So we may be doing some more with that in the future. But right now, it's just if you know they're connected with SOAR, yes. If not, no. It's a specific program. So just because a client has SSI or you're working on getting them SSI does not mean that they're necessarily connected to the SOAR program. So, yes, you will be able to add the SOAR stuff via interim for SSVF. Yep. My SSVF administrators are tapping into the hive mind. Yes, we will be able to change that at various data collection stages. Oh, I didn't do that.
What?
Shelly asked if we put the handouts up. Janelle's really scared that I'm trying to do this right now.
No, I'm not. I was just we can just put it on the help desk and just.
Yeah, we are going to put it on the help desk for sure. I am seeing if I can.
Maybe.
Hey. Oh, okay.
Maybe you can't do it during.
It didn't let me do it during.
Like
Sorry about that.
Driving.
I mean, you can.
I mean, nav on the maps.
All right. Anyway, sorry. I tried to toss the slides into the drag and drop, but it wouldn't let me. So we will have them up afterwards. I'm sorry I didn't make those available. Move-in dates will not. That's a good question. Do you know about housing move-in for prevention?
No, because you're not moving them in.
That's what I would think, but it's just, okay.
HP is not changing.
All right. We're pretty sure.
I mean, you might move somebody in somewhere, but that's not a necessary piece.
We won't be tracking it for prevention, Monica, to our knowledge. Okay. So other changes to the,
Okay. So to talk about prevention a little more. So, when you have somebody in homelessness prevention, that means they're already housed when you start working with them. So you wouldn't put a move-in date because you didn't necessarily move them into a different place. You can, while you're working with somebody to prevent their homelessness, move them from one place to another place. And then, yes, you have moved somebody, but that's not necessarily a piece of the prevention project, because you're not moving somebody from not being homeless to being.
From being homeless to being housed.
Thank you. Right.
You're moving them from maybe unstable or inadequate housing to better housing.
Well, okay, so she's saying temporarily housed, move them to no. So prevention, if somebody in prevention
she means
has
like
to
staying
be
with family or friends. Do they count it as a move-in date?
no.
Right. Sorry. Yes, it's for temporary
Yeah.
residence priors like couch surfing. You aren't tracking a move-in date when
Right.
you get them into their own housing. So you're capturing that via your destination, but we're not looking at move-in date for that. Okay, cool. All right. So last grade completed. I thought we added that last year, but if we didn't, it's on there this year for all adults for SSVF projects, and then also employment status and general health status. I think the employment options are something like full, part-time, contingent, unemployed, can't work, and general health is something like good, fair, poor. So you just ask the client how they would characterize their health status, and then you put down what they say, and you ask them if they're employed and how, if they're working full-time, you put down what they say. Use of other crisis services is retired. So we added that last year, and we're taking it away because I guess they decided they're not looking at it. So that will be gone. Oh, and then this is kind of not relevant to you guys, but the VA Medical Center station list has to be a drop down because having it be an open text box wasn't getting the best information. So you'll have a drop down. I don't know how MetaWare is going to do that yet. That'll be one of the things we'll be able to answer more clearly in 2 weeks. It may just be every single one in Ohio. I'm assuming they're going to have surrounding areas because I know some of you, your medical center might be in the next state over, depending on where your project is. So, but that's vendor stuff. So you guys don't have to worry about it. You'll just need to drop down and pick the right one. Do you need to?
We'll get back to that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of changes for RYE. I know that we don't have a ton of RYE projects in Balance of State and Mahoning, but I still want to go over these. And those of you in the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Project area may be using some of these, so we are going to review them. We talked about having an aftercare and follow-up. Referral provided by has had some wording changes, meaning how did the youth get referred to the RYE project. The family unification achieved element has been retired. Sorry. It's okay. Referral sources has a changed pick list. BCP status has been clarified a little bit. Family critical issues has been reduced. For those of you who enter for RYE, BCP, I'm sure you're getting excited because you know that's a really long list. So for services provided, this is really important because this applies to both RYE and has been applicable for PATH, but just to clarify, you collect, so for PATH and RYE, you record a service one time per category. So if the category is for RYE, peer, the peer counseling one or whatever, you don't mark every single time you hooked that youth up with peer counseling at your program. Once you've done it once, you just mark it once. Basically, HHS wants to know the array of services that a client is receiving through your program, not the saturation of those services. So if you guys, have confusion about that, we can talk about it more. Project completion status is reduced. They've added element about counseling and safe appropriate exit, and then the aftercare has been changed to a post-exit collection stage. If you're a RIE project and you're feeling nervous about that, you actually already have the ability to put in a follow-up. You've just never had to use it. It's basically just like an interim, but it's an interim that happens after the exit. So there will be more detailed instruction on that, but it is not going to be painful. And we actually are looking at possibly using the follow-up feature for some veteran stuff with temporary and permanent destinations as well. So expect to hear more about that in a couple of weeks. And then this is just a direct link to the HUD exchange information that's available. And that, we took the slides from MetaWare and adjusted them. So I think that is it for our content. So we're doing great on time. That's what we expected. We're just going to start going through some of the questions. So please continue to send in questions. Thank you. Glad to hear that it wasn't as painful as Carrie thought it might be. Do you want to talk about data quality overlapping from 10.1? I feel like that's something people...
I answered it publicly.
Oh, okay. Okay,
and
great.
Yeah, the data quality report is going to reflect these changes, and they're not going to check, your current data against the new stuff.
I know.
We need to go back and fix clients that are already in our program. I don't think there's anything that would need to be fixed.
No. I know they say that every year, but this year, since it was
There
mostly
really isn't.
taking things away,
Yeah.
there literally shouldn't be. I mean, the only thing I can anticipate going wrong is if the start date for the housing move-in date for open clients, October 1st, should be automatically populated to the start date. If for some reason that didn't happen, you might have to enter that in. But other than that, I can't think of anything else that could go wrong in terms of.
I think MetaWare was going to map all of your PSH clients back to I don't know when. All of your entry dates are going to be mapped to the move-in date as of through the end of September, and then going forward, you're going to start people who are that you're already working with, but you don't have them housed yet. You should go ahead and get them entered into HMIS, and then when they move in, put their move-in date. So this is going to bring up another question that has come up with rapid rehousing, and I think PSH folks are going to be wondering the same thing, and that is, so what happens when we're working with a household and they agreed to the services, our agency agreed to help them, they were eligible, but when by the time we found them a place, they had skipped town, or they have whatever, found their own way, and we can't find them or whatever. So what do we do with them then, right, is the question. And the answer to that, and I know this will be new to a lot of the rapid rehousing folks, and so it's pretty important that this is understood, is basically you would exit them to whatever destination is appropriate. So if they didn't disappear and you know that they just found another solution before you had a chance to get them housing, you would just exit them to the same place that they were when you first started working with them. If you can't find them and you really have no idea where they went, then that destination is going to be no exit interview. And so the next thing that we would need to address, of course, is, so what about your outcomes? What about the QPR? What about our COC competition? And how is that going to affect? It's going to affect it a lot. And so the COC knows this, and we're going to be working this change into our COC goals. And so that's how that's going to work. And basically, the thing is, we just want to know what's happening in truth, right? So, yeah, that's all I know to say right now about that.
Okay. Beth had asked some questions about what the start date is for PSH.
Yeah, I answered.
Okay, so we got that one. Talked about that. What was? Yes, this will be available online. Yeah, I shouldn't need to mess with the move-in date for old clients. It should just be going forward. Oh, so if you don't have visuals and you're just listening, the materials are going to be posted at hmis.cohio.org, and the new forms will be posted there as well. And the demo site for Service Point is the exact same URL, except it's underscore demo. And like I said, we don't have everything ship shape right now. So if you get in, it might look messy because we just did that update and have been exploring and we haven't really like modeled stuff, but you guys are always more than welcome to get in there and poke around. So we updated it. Your login should be the same as your live site login, but it might be different because we don't always update them at the same time. Oh, okay. No. So for Rye, the youth you're serving in Rye is always the head of household. And if you have siblings, they're each their own head of household. And if you have a youth with a baby, then the parenting youth is the head of household, and then the baby is in as their baby. Anything else you want to address?
The intake forms will be available in the next couple of days. I just wanted to make sure a few other people saw them before I just put them out there.
Yeah, and yes, so you will do all your information as of start date, and then you will go back and add the move-in date via an interim, unless they got housed same day. No, even if income is just on a child, and that's the only income in the household, we don't document it. We only capture income for adults. That might be changing for youth homelessness demonstration project stuff, but it's not right now. So for RRH, what's our current standard? Is it still 21 days?
Yeah, the goal is like, less than 21 days to get someone housed from the time that, you've discovered, you figured out that they're eligible and they've agreed to good services and you've agreed to give them.
I don't know if that standard is going to be any different for PSH start to move in.
I don't either.
We haven't really explored that yet.
Yeah.
Trina asked if SSVF will have to enter all the new stuff for all open clients on 10-1. I would operate under the assumption of yes. That's what they've made us do every other year. So I don't know why this year would be any different. So SSVF folks should plan on getting in there and making sure all those new elements are updated for their open clients before the November upload. Yes, if you get housed same day, you can put your move-in date via entry.
That's going to be rare, though, I would imagine.
I feel like it happened to me twice in the 2 years I did RRH. At the end, Beth, if you're doing the demo site, so it's HT.
I put it. I put in the link for everybody.
Okay, great.
To the demo site. If someone project entry date is today and moves into permanent 2 days later, will this continue to show as questionable move-in date? No, does it?
I don't know what the calculation is for questionable right now.
I don't know either. I thought it was like 0 or 1. Or 2 days shouldn't show as questionable. If it does, I'll change that. But no, that shouldn't flag. And on top of that, questionable doesn't count against you ever in any situations. It's just simply like showing you that this might be weird. If it's correct, leave it. If it isn't, fix it.
Sorry, I was just making sure that, okay. Sage question.
It shouldn't change anything for your APRs. All these changes shouldn't change.
Nope, this shouldn't have any negative or any impact on APRs.
Yeah. I mean, the destination list, though, is different.
Yeah, but if you've already submitted, it wouldn't have any impact unless you were submitting if your program year ends after 10/1,
Yeah.
then the changes will affect you. If your
I don't
program
think anybody has that.
if your program year ends before 10/1, I mean, it is probably a good idea to just export before then, just to be on the safe side. So like if your program year ends, has ended sometime this month but your APR is not going to be due for a couple of months, you may want to export it before 9/30. And same thing goes for my SSVF folks. It's always a good idea when we have data standards changes to do your SSVF export on 9/30, just to avoid having to mess with anything for closed clients on 10/1. We haven't had any specific guidance as sysadmins about the APR or the SSVF export. We're just giving you the best advice based on what's happened in previous years.
I'm going to ask about that, and that's going to be the other thing that we can follow up on, just to make sure that MetaWare is going to be updating the APRs to match the list of destinations since that changed. Thanks for asking, Michelle.
All right, guys. Any other questions? I've got our help desk address up here. Apologies to those of you who emailed me on Friday and Monday. I was on vacation. I forgot to do my auto reply. I wasn't ignoring you.
Oh.
What?
We were going to include too about do we not have time?
I mean, do you want to pull something up? Because we've got time, but it wasn't in the original slideshow. Do you want to wait till 10:02, or do you want to pull it up?
What I'm talking about,
sorry,
in order to not keep everybody in suspense, is we have created a sort of guide to help everybody figure out whether an exit to family or friends is temporary or permanent. And it's just, I don't think anything in it is going to be surprising, but we just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that in the same way, so that we're doing it the same across the COC. So we're going to be offering that. We're going to be putting that up on the help desk, and we'll send out an email with a link to that. And then wasn't there something else? Anyway, what was it? Okay. And there was something else, and we'll email about that, or we'll catch you next webinar.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll have a few other things. We're going to have some more information coming out to you guys over the next couple of weeks. All right. I think that's it then. Sorry we allotted so much time, but we just wanted to make sure, depending on how many questions came in, that we had plenty of time to answer them. Better to end early than feel like we have to go over. So, we'll be talking soon. A lot of emails come out from us around this time. Bear with us. We're still going to keep it short and sweet and only give you guys the information that we think you need to know. Don't hesitate to contact us with questions, and hopefully it'll be pretty smooth transition and a good wrap up to AHAR. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great happy hump day. I'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks, y'all.